6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 4. Seems like the sound's working just fine. Seems like the sound's working just fine. Good morning, friends. Here we are. It is Monday morning, and we're about to chat about health and fitness. Food can change your life. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk specifically about why food matters and how we can eat a little bit smarter every day. Okay, seems like everything's working. But for those of you who are watching, first of all, my name is Toby. I am 41 years old, and I am training to live an active, self-sufficient, and adventurous life. I do so by minding my sleep. I try to sleep between 7 and 8 hours in a night. Last night I failed miserably. I only made it to 6, not even actually. It's one of those rare occurrences, but it does happen once in a while. That's all right. I'll sleep better tonight. I mind what I eat. I try to eat within my energy balance. We're going to talk about that in a bit. We're going to talk a bit more about what that means and why that is important. I try to eat a lot of greens and vegetables, wholesome foods, to stay healthy, to get in fiber and nutrients. And I try to eat a lot of variety, and I try to eat sufficient protein to meet my strength and muscle building goals. So that's 60 to 80 grams of protein on a regular day, and 80 to 100 grams of protein on a day where I am picking up kettlebells and training with weights to grow some muscle and lean mass. So hey, if those are things that you're interested in, you go ahead and check out my channel and subscribe. On this podcast, we talk about different topics every day. We talk about small changes that we can make every day to start to develop a lifestyle that is supportive to our long-term health and fitness. On Monday, we talk about sleep. On Tuesday, we talk about food. On Wednesday, we talk about movement. On Thursday, we talk about connection. On Friday, we talk about hobbies. On Saturday, we talk about motivation. And on Sunday, we reflect. And that is the rhythm of the podcast. So anyway, the hook that I gave you about food is completely off, because we need to talk about sleep more than we need to talk about food. But I guess food is top of mind for me at 5:52 a.m. for some reason. I won't be able to tell you what that reason is, because I'm not even that hungry. As you can see, the vegetable and fruit baskets have been restocked over the weekend. They were looking a bit empty on the last couple of streams. So, we're good to go again for another week healthy eating. If you want to drop by and say hi in the chat, go ahead, say hello. Let me know that you're watching. I'd appreciate that. If you have any question you want to ask me, you go ahead and ask me that question, and I'd be happy to chat with you about the question you have. Whatever you do, go ahead and check out my channel. And if you'd want to help me out, instead of liking and subscribing, just pick 1 or 2 videos and watch 1 or 2 minutes of them, because I'm trying to hit that 3,000 hours of watch time. And hitting that 3,000 hours of watch time is proving to be intensely difficult. So if you would want to help me out with that, I would greatly appreciate it. Honestly, you'd be doing me a big favor, because if we can get to those 3,000 hours of watch time, then we're actually talking about about a different kind of channel than we are doing right now. But that's enough about that, because we are here to talk about health, fitness, and longevity. And specifically, we're here to talk about sleep today, despite me leading with a hook about food. But actually food is also very conducive to how we sleep, right? And we're going to talk about that in a little bit also. There wasn't any training today. I have hurt my foot. I've hurt my foot to the point where my foot is relatively swollen. Doesn't feel broken. It already feels a bit and looks a bit better than it did yesterday. So I'm going to give it another day to see how that develops and if it keeps getting better. Maybe tomorrow I just need to pop by the doctor to have them have a look and confirm that nothing super detrimental is going on. But I have decided to take it easy and to give my foot a good opportunity to rest for a couple of days, because being injured is no fun, being in pain is no fun, and it doesn't help us work on our long-term health and fitness goals, does it? Patricia Buckhouse said hi. Hi back. Thanks for dropping by, saying hi. I hope you're doing well where you're at in the world, whether it's late in the evening and you're ready to go to bed, or early morning and you're up and ready to start the day. I hope you're well, and I hope you're going to have a good night's sleep or a good day, either way. So today we're going to talk about sleep, because it's Monday, and I think sleep is one of the cornerstones of longevity. And let me just give you a bit of context here about why I think that is the case. I think that is the case because sleep is incredibly restorative as a process. It is incredibly restorative across all different kinds of species. It is very strange that across the board, if you look at the world and all of the species that are there, sleep seems to be something almost all do. It's a completely ridiculous process, right? Where you switch off for 7 to 8 hours every 24-hour cycle. But yet, up until this point in our evolution, we still keep doing it. So it must be incredibly functional, because otherwise it would have disappeared. And when we look at the different processes that occur while we sleep, right, just to name a couple, sleeping well helps with our hormone regulation, and hormone regulation is an incredibly important part of us staying healthy and well. Sleep helps us literally clear out our brains, like the brain cells apparently shrink somewhat, and then they are flushed out like a fluid is flushed through the system that carries away all of the junk that accumulates over the course of a day. Sleep is where our muscles repair and grow when we stress our muscles through exercise and training. A lot of the repair and the growth of our muscles occurs while we are sleeping, the regeneration. If we don't sleep well, the function of our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that makes us truly human, is impaired. And there's a whole list of things relating to sleep specifically. And sleep means that, relating to sleep specifically, and to not sleep means to rob us of proper function of our body. It means to set us up for poorer health, right? If we don't sleep well, for example, we start to suffer from low-grade inflammation. Now, low-grade inflammation, once in a while, should be fine, but continuously, perpetually, i.e. if we are not sleeping at all for weeks on end, it's going to make us sick, because low-grade inflammation triggers the immune system, and when the immune system is overstimulated or used more than it should be, it doesn't function as effectively as it could. So sleep's important, right? That's the context, and that's why we talk about it. Sleep helps with overall weight management and overall food management, actually, when it comes to that. So, for example, it is easier to exert willpower when we sleep well, control over our choices in life, that means. But it is also a fact that when we sleep poorly, we tend to consume between 300 and 500 calories more in a day. And for some reason, we tend to prefer fatty foods when we haven't slept well. So you can see a whole bunch of reasons why sleep actually matters. Okay, so what can we do to prepare better for sleep? We've talked about different things, right? We've talked about the sleep mask. We've talked about an evening ritual. We've talked about setting a bedtime. Yeah, and we need to do all those things, but we can also do something with our food. We've talked about caffeine intake. To stop taking caffeine at a certain time during the day, anywhere between 8 to 10 hours before bedtime. So if your bedtime is at 10 p.m., 2 p.m. is the last moment where we can drink a cup of coffee. If your bedtime is at 8 p.m., the last coffee is around noon, right? Just keep that time frame in mind. And we can do the same for food. We can actually switch the different foods that we eat. So for example, if you're used to having a big dinner and a small lunch, we can actually flip that around. Because the lighter the meal we have before we sleep, the better we apparently sleep. Isn't that interesting? And I think that's a fascinating given of the interplay also between food and sleep. We need food to fuel the processes, including the recovery that we're after. But we also need to mind how and what we eat in order to sleep better and sleep well. So when you have a really big, heavy meal right before sleep, what happens? Your body starts working very hard, right? Whereas if you have a lighter meal or no meal at all, there's some people out there who have their last meal 4, 5, 6 hours before bedtime. Yeah, your body is better able to rest because a lot of the heavy digestion and the work that goes into digestion has already been done at this stage. So when we eat and what we eat are an essential part of preparation for sleep. I think there's a lot to be said for trying to figure this out experimentally, and also to keep in mind that this is something that we want to do most of the time, not all of the time, right? So if we can hit this 330 days out of the year, that is probably going to be just fine. We don't need to do this perfectly 365 days of the year. But if for most of the days of the year we can look at the meal timing that we have and make sure that is 2 hours before sleep at least, and preferably even earlier, and if we can make that meal lighter, meaning that we have a heavier meal earlier on in the day, we are setting ourselves up for better sleep. And when we sleep better, all of those benefits of sleep, cognitive function, physical recovery, hormonal recovery, muscle building, mental deloading, we will start to see improvements immediately over the course of the days that we sleep better. Because we feel better, we become more active, we have more energy, but we also are able to make different choices in terms of what we decide to do with the time we have. So sleep matters. So what is one thing in that vein that we can look to do? I would like you for one day of the week, one meal, one dinner this week, doesn't matter which one, because we're not into radical changes here, right? But for one dinner a week, try to look into making that light yet sustaining. So that means that we're looking at soups, for example, not the heavy creamy ones, mostly vegetable-based ones, right? Maybe less meat in there, because meat tends to be relatively heavy, especially when consumed in large quantities. So have that protein earlier in the day if you're a meat eater who relies on animal sources for their protein. Have that earlier in the day, but that last meal have a slightly lighter version of it, limited, to somewhere under 100 grams. Look into things like more greens and salads, less carbohydrates, even though carbohydrates should be a part of that mix. But make that meal portion smaller, filling, high on fiber and volume, but low on grease and difficult to digest or hard to digest ingredients. And there are probably quite a few recipes out there. But that is one day this week. One day. Just one meal. That's all we're talking about. And since we've already been adding a vegetable and a fruit and a glass of water here and there, we've been mindful of what we buy, we've been making little changes. This is another little change that we can make in the scheme of things, because it's going to force us to discover new recipes. And when we discover new recipes, maybe we'll discover what we can incorporate into our meal planning and into our routines, into our supermarket cycle, into our grocery cycle, to actually be prepared for meals that help us sleep better. Because it all works together, right? It's the symphony of our sleep, what we eat, how we move, whether we feel connected and that we belong, and whether we have a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment through the things that we do. When we orchestrate that well, overall we'll start to feel better about life and the life we're living. Okay, that's all I have for you today, friends. And I hope that's sufficient, and I hope that was insightful. I appreciate you dropping by for the podcast. Appreciate you dropping by and listening. And I look forward to connecting with you again tomorrow. I won't be doing any training or any streams until my foot recovers. You'll watch me limp off screen now in a moment with my cup of coffee. I'm going to sit with my foot up and hope that it gets better over the course of today. Remember, we're good just the way we are. We've got to love ourselves before we can move on. As the person we are today is going to get us to where we want to be tomorrow. So a bit of kindness is going to go a long way. There are enough people out there who want to put us down, so we'll lift ourselves up, all right? And the only way to get anything done is by showing up and doing the work. So I'll see you tomorrow, friend. And remember to subscribe.